Hello, folks, and welcome to Jack Reviews Musicals. If this is your first time seeing my face, hi, my name is Jack, and I am a musical theater superfan based in my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. And this is my YouTube channel where I share my thoughts on all of the musical theater productions that I go out to see in St. Louis. In this video, I will be sharing with you my thoughts on New Line Theater's production of The Sweet Potato Queens, a musical that is playing at the Marcel Theater from February 29th through March 23rd, 2024. If St. Louis musical theater reviews are your kind of content, I have a website, jackreviewsmusicals.com, where you can read all of the written reviews that I have published for St. Louis musical theater since the start of 2022. This right here is going to be the first in my series of video reviews, so if you want to keep seeing those, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to see more. So New Line Theater, the company that is producing this show, not New Line Cinema, there's a clear distinction there. They are a regional theater company based in St. Louis that produces musical theater that dives into important social issues of the day. New Line Theater's permanent venue is the Marcel Theater, which is a 150-seat black box theater. It's located in St. Louis's Arts District in Grand Center. Because of the nature of their venue and the shows that they produce, New Line is a very intimate experience, and they often produce shows that are social commentaries and calls to, social change and action. So because of that, New Line shows tend to be, very aggressive, very confrontational. And their shows run a pretty impressive gamut. They've done productions of musical theater staples. Last year, they did A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. New Line has also produced musical theater hidden gems. Like last year, as part of their 2023 season, they produced Morieston and Arthur Kopit's 9. And they've also done very new age, modern musical comedies. For their 2022 season, their first full season after the pandemic, they did a season of all comedies, consisting of Head Over Heels, Urinetown, and Something Rotten. However, with The Sweet Potato Queens, they've really hit a departure from their usual style. When New Line announced that they were going to produce this show for their 2024 season, I honestly have to admit that they stumped the band here. I'm a musical theater superfan, so musicals that I haven't heard at least the title for are very hard to find. And The Sweet Potato Queens is as obscure can be. I had never heard of this show, and I never knew that the subject matter even existed. And apparently neither was New Line Theater's artistic director Scott Miller, when he was recommended the show by a season ticket subscriber. Now, I did a little bit of research on The Sweet Potato Queens before actually seeing the show, and let me tell you, I can understand now why New Line wanted to produce it. So, The Sweet Potato Queens first premiered in 2016 at Theater Under the Stars in Houston, Texas. Since then, the show has had no official cast recording at all, and so theater companies have only produced it purely out of word of mouth. The show was set in Jackson, Mississippi in 1982, so because of this, the score consists of country music. The music was scored by Melissa Manchester, who is a Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter. Some music fans might know her from the hit song Don't Cry Out Loud. Those in the musical theater scene would know that Manchester is currently starring as Mrs. Bryce in the American National Tour of the Broadway revival of Funny Girl. The lyrics for the show were penned by country songwriter Sharon Vaughn, who wrote the song My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys, which was sung by both Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. Vaughn has also written songs for country superstars like the Oak Ridge Boys and Reba McEntire. The book was written by Rupert Holmes, who the music scene will remember as the singer-songwriter responsible for Escape, the Pina Colada song. In the musical theater world, Holmes is also responsible for writing the music, lyrics, and book for the musical version of The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And he also wrote the book for the musical Curtains. The Sweet Potato Queens is a biographical musical. It is based on a true story about a real-life organization that not a lot of people know it exists. The Sweet Potato Queens is the world's largest organization of female drag queens. The Sweet Potato Queens started as a grassroots organization. They were founded on St. Patrick's Day in 1982 in Jackson, Mississippi. And the reason why they're called the Sweet Potato Queens is because they wanted to promote themselves during the St. Patty's Day parade in Jackson. And so their float was a sweet potato truck that they had rented. Since they first floated down the St. Patty's Day parade, the Sweet Potato Queens has sprouted to have over 6,500 chapters in close to 40 countries. The founder of the SPQs, Jill Connor Brown, has also written a series of books and lectures that actually lay out the SPQ's philosophy and worldview. Now, the purpose of the Sweet Potato Queens is to perform drag shows that uplift the spirits of lower middle class, middle-aged, Southern women. They want to spread awareness of the feminist and human rights issues that they constantly go through being from where they are. And they put all of the proceeds from their shows, their books, and their parades back into their community. This organization consists of and appeals to women who have been there, done that, seen it all, and desire more than anything to live their best life. Now, the SPQs are just doing the same thing that drag does normally, but they're doing it in a way that it makes the women take their power back and shows that drag can really be performed by anyone of any age, no matter where you're from, or what gender you are, what race you are, or even your social status or, financial class. The philosophy of the Sweet Potato Queens is one that emphasizes more than anything Southern pride. It's about self-love, about individuality and freedom. They're, very loud and very flamboyant. They're drag queens. But at the same time, they're also very down to earth, and they're also very homely because, again, they're lower middle class, middle-aged women from the Deep South. They're fiercely independent, they live their life out loud, but they also make a lot of room for very deep respect and love for their fellow man. It kind of felt like I was being given a hug throughout watching New Line Theater's The Sweet Potato Queens. So, the show begins with a framing device of the Sweet Potato Queens putting on a live show for us at the Marcel Theater. Leading the performance is boss queen herself, Jill Connor Brown, who and the other queens tell us all everything that we need to know about them at the outset, about their costumes, their personality, and their philosophy. And after we establish who the queens are, they then perform for us a 2-act long flashback that explains how they got to where they are now. Our protagonist, of course, is Jill Connor Brown, and when we first meet her, she is pushing 30 and living with her mother and her second husband Tyler, as well as their baby daughter, in a trailer park in Jackson, Mississippi in 1982. And we find out that both Jill and Tyler are both unemployed, with no credit and trying to raise a kid. We establish right at the beginning of this flashback that Jill is at a crossroads in her life. On one hand, her mama wants her to just get a desk job like she had before. Tyler, in another corner, wants Jill to, just focus on their relationship, focus on their marriage and trying to raise their daughter. And then in another corner, we have Jill's daddy, who has recently passed away and appears to Jill as a ghost. And he keeps on telling her the same advice that he always tells her when he was alive. Just be particular. Do what makes your heart sing. But if we know anything about musical theater writing, Jill has absolutely no idea what makes her heart sing. So after Jill leaves her job for the final time, she decides to commiserate herself by going to her local Chinese restaurant. And it's there that she finds the Tammies. The Tammies are 3 women who are all named Tammy, and they are each nicknamed based on different personality types of women from the South. The first one is Flower Tammy. All of the Tammies are here to celebrate Flower Tammy's birthday. She is a very innocent, very delicate flower. She works as an Avon lady, and she often uses her expertise in makeup and beauty to hide the fact that she is living with an abusive husband. We then meet Flower Tammy's best friend, Too Much Tammy. She's a very loud, very abrasive, chronic overeater who experiences pretty bad body dysmorphia, and she yearns to be in a judgment-free zone where she really can just let herself go. And honestly, same. I kind of have to say right away, Too Much Tammy is my favorite character in the show. The final Tammy is Floozy Tammy, who is a hypersexual woman. The only way that Floozy can feel something is if she's sleeping with a man. And what she wants to do is experience real, true love, something that she hasn't felt for a long time. We also meet another character who is very close to the Tammies, George. He's a server at the Chinese restaurant who happens to be a gay man. And the way that he struggles is trying to muster up a sense of pride for himself, because being in Mississippi, he's constantly exposed to outward and internal homophobia. His journey is all about learning to love and respect himself. That even though he doesn't fit into society, he does fit in himself. All of the characters in the Chinese restaurant have this big I Want song called Make a Wish, and from that, Jill immediately makes friends with all 4 of them because of how she relates to their collective problems. And after this inciting incident, the rest of the show, all the way up until the end, where we come back to the drag show, it's Jill, the Tammies, and George working out through their collective disappointments, leading up to the moment they become the Sweet Potato Queens. Now, the thing about the Sweet Potato Queens, the musical, is what sells it as a show is the characters and its heart. New Line Theater's production is directed by company artistic director Scott Miller and production choreographer Tony Elmar Jr. And what they nailed about the show is they immediately got Rupert Holmes' book. The script for this show, outside of the drag scenes and, the flashy production numbers, it plays out very much like an intimate Southern drama, like a kitchen drama, like Steel Magnolias. Yeah, there are moments of high camp in the show, but the directors really don't treat this show like it's,
some kind of quirky musical comedy.
It's like, no. The way that the musical flows, as far as its story goes, is very down to earth. It's very human. Very Southern. The moments where the characters are just being themselves and trying to go through their everyday struggles is very laid back and very slow paced, which is very unusual again for a theater company like New Line that is known for having such an aggressive identity. Even Tony Elmore Jr.'s choreography, it perfectly captures the way that these people would actually move if they were given dance steps. If there is one thing about the show that I would probably have to gripe about, it would be the score. Now, do not get the wrong idea right away. The score overall is not bad at all. In fact, I would even dare say that all of these songs work very well on their own as country songs that you could play on the radio. I mean, just look at the writing pedigree that we're entering with on this show. But I do feel that as far as the storytelling is concerned, the lyrical content of the songs do get kind of repetitive. Now again, the writers of the score are Melissa Manchester and Sharon Vaughn, who are, very famous award-winning singer-songwriters. And they're writing entirely in the country idiom, of course. And they're definitely qualified to write a score for a story like this one, which is very feminist. And it runs a pretty good gamut. They write boot scoots about how if you want to get a man to do what you want, promise them sex. They do showstoppers extolling the virtues of down-home Southern cooking and Mad Dog 2020. And they also write very touching power ballads about what it means to yearn for true love, or even what it's like to be a victim of domestic violence. But I would say that out of the whole score, about 1/5 of it sounds kind of samey. After the Tammys have their, big I Want song, Make a Wish, they each get their own spotlight songs. Songs that dive deeper into what they're going through. Flower Tammy's, the song about being a victim of domestic violence, is called Cherries in the Snow. Too Much Tammy gets the exaltation of Southern cooking called Funeral Food. And Floozy Tammy gets That One Kiss, which is actually a duet with Jill, all about yearning for true love. Too Much Tammy's song, Funeral Food, serves as the show's entr'acte, and it's by far the best of the three. I would even dare say that it's actually the best song in the whole show. But songs like Cherries in the Snow, That One Kiss, and other songs like The Only Thing I Know and the Act 1 finale, All That Matters, didn't really grab me all that much. They didn't really cover anything new lyrically that we didn't already get from Make-A-Wish or some of the other memorable numbers. Now, again, I'm not saying that these songs are at all bad. It's just that they didn't really engage me on a storytelling level. And again, the songs work very well in their own right. I could see them playing these on the radio. And the forgettable songs are only just one part of the whole score. The rest of it is very good. And the country score is delivered by a 6-piece country rock band. The band is led by musical director Tim Amukele, and his direction is quite good. All of the characters in the show have great harmonies and great voices on their own. And the thing about the vocal arrangements, too, is that they're not particularly spectacular, but they are really nice sounding. And they aren't really supposed to be, mind-blowing, because that's not who these characters are. And the band really nails that very distinct country sound. Tim Amukele leads the band on a first set of keyboards. We have a second set of keyboards that is played by Nikki Irvin. We have Adam Rugo on guitar, John Gerdes on bass, Clancy Newell on the drums, and Brandon Thompson on the reeds. Rugo even gets a nice feature on the slide whistle in one of the songs. Now, one thing that I have to mention about the Marcel Theater is it is a black box theater, so trying to do musicals in it is very interesting to do logistically. But New Line nails it here. The sound balancing between the musicians and the actors on stage is really, really good. And all the credit in the world has to go to production sound designer Ryan Day. Not because New Line has a very, in-your-face, intimate performance style. They always hire musical theater actors who are totally fearless, at the top of their game, and the Sweet Potato Queens is no exception. And like I said before about this show, what really sells it is the fact that these characters because they are based on real people, they are very well defined and very intensely likable. They're unforgettable. It would have been so easy to just turn these characters into a caricature, but these actors don't. Directors Scott Miller and Tony Elmar Jr. really hammer it in there that these characters are very real and very human. And the actors bring out those sides of those characters. Jill Connor Brown in this production is played by Talisha Noah. She is a very good leader for the Queens. She has great onstage instincts. She does a really good job at easing you into the world that the Sweet Potato Queens have created. The most vulnerable performance in the show comes from Victoria Pines as Flower Tammy. And Victoria Pines really gives Flower Tammy this very haunting quality that emphasizes just how profoundly sad Flower is as a character. When she finally does come around at the end to being who she really is, breaking away from her inherently delicate nature, it's really dramatically satisfying. It's all around a great performance, probably the best of the evening, but there's pretty tight competition, especially from the actor who played Too Much Tammy, Anne Heyer Brown. Her performance, especially in Funeral Food, is vivacious. She is very loud, very fun. We got an interesting performance here from Floozy Tammy. The actor who plays her name is Mara Bellini. Now, Floozy Tammy delivers the most double entendres out of any character in the show. She is responsible for most of the show's really bawdy humor during the drag performances and the production numbers. But other than that, all of the other times she's on stage, she's actually very deadpan, which kind of makes her comic delivery all the more funny. It's a nice comic foil to all of the other queens, especially Too Much. Now, I do have to talk about another interesting foil that kind of serves as a very dramatically satisfying contrast. And it's between Tyler and George. He's played in the show by Jeffrey M. Wright. He's actually a veteran with New Line shows. Tyler's great tragic flaw is the fact that he thinks he is way smarter than he actually is. He tries to do well for Jill. He always keeps succumbing to temptation, whether it be from being seduced by other women or from drinking long nights at the bar after a hard day of trying to look for a job. But he's not unlikable. It's almost like you want to root for him, but you really just can't because of how much he keeps failing as a person. There's a scene that he has with George, the server from the Chinese restaurant. The two of them meet up at a gay bar. Well, actually, Tyler wanders into the gay bar on accident, and George happened to be there. And Tyler sings a song to George called No Man's Land, where he feels because of the societal pressures that women keep placing on him, he doesn't really feel like he can be himself anymore, where he really can't express himself. Which, of course, coming from Tyler, is a really, really hypocritical thing to say in song. George is sitting next to him the entire time during this song. He makes it clear, just from his physicality and body language, he is not comfortable with this confession. And that nonverbal communication is expertly played by Aaron Kamphoffner, who plays George. George is a character who has very intense struggles with pride, with self-love, because of his outward and internalized homophobia. And he has a monologue in Act 2 where the Sweet Potato Queens, because of how close George has been to them, he has been crowned an honorary queen. And George has this really moving monologue, and it got to the point where after his final revelation, I just started crying. The other two cast members in the show that round out the whole ensemble are Bethany Barr and Kent Koffel as Jill's parents, Mama and Daddy. And they also provide nice comic foils, with Mama being the perfect example of the overbearing mother that really only just wants the best for her daughter, even though the ways that she shows that are, And Kent Koffel as Daddy is the perfect representation of that very laid-back, very wise Southern father. Kent Koffel also plays other small roles in the show. He's a news reporter during the drag show that serves as the show's framing device. He's the tender of the gay bar that Tyler and George go to. And he's also the sweet potato farmer that Jill rents that truck from that gave the SPQs their name. The show was framed as a live show being performed by the Sweet Potato Queens, and that vision is carried out by New Line Theater's production values. The set for the show is designed by Dr. Rob Lippert. His set places the audience on 3 sides of the Marcel Theater. It's a 40 by 50 foot black box space with one big set of bleachers on the short side of it coming down right when you enter the door, and 2 more on either side on the long side, coming down a little ways in front of the bleachers. And the playing area creates this sort of 3/4 thrust effect. The centerpiece of the playing area is a raised platform that is made to resemble an upturned high-heeled shoe that I thought was pretty clever. It's often used as a platform for dancing, as a bench, as a table. It's very versatile. The background of the playing area is a scrim that is strung up to look like a tiara, and hanging down in front of it is a giant pair of the SPQ's iconic sunglasses. It sets the tone perfectly. All of the changes in location are achieved using the lights, which are designed very effectively by the technical director for New Line, Matt Stuckel, and the props by the company stage manager, Emily Floyd. But as far as the production values go, the star here is the costumes, which are designed by Zachary Phelps. Now, fun fact, Zachary Phelps is actually a costume design student. He's currently in his first year of college trying to earn his BFA in theatrical costume design. If you read through my website, jackreviewsmusicals.com, you would know that Zachary Phelps actually made his professional debut designing the costumes for a Tesseract Theater's production for Kinky Boots, which is another heavy drag show. And for the Sweet Potato Queens, the drag that he designs here is very, very accurate to how they actually look in real life. And it's very, very well crafted. I also love the great touches that Phelps does with the other costumes too. Like for the casual wear for Jill, the Tammys, and George, he dresses them in blues and pinks to show how they all connected to each other, really emphasizing their closeness. And as a contrast, he dresses Mama, Daddy, and Tyler all in earth tones to show how they're a lot more distant. Now, I am actually someone who dabbles in fashion design as a hobby, and I am honestly really, really impressed that someone who is as young as Zachary Phelps really manages to have such a huge grasp on how clothes can tell a story. If Zachary Phelps keeps up his resume, he's going to have a really, really promising career in costume design. He is a name to watch out for. The Sweet Potato Queens is a very heartfelt and legitimately charming piece of musical theater about the importance of pride and perseverance. It is chock full of genuine country songs in the musical theater canon, as well as a really nice, really sweet, tightly written, really dramatically satisfying script. Not to mention, it is also an incredibly exuberant validation of not only the Southern lifestyle, but also of drag as a performance style. New Line Theater's production totally captures the real-life Sweet Potato Queens' flamboyance, extravagance, as well as their very uncompromising intimacy, warmth, and humor. watching the Sweet Potato Queens is akin to being given a hug, with the possibility of being suffocated by boob padding, or getting sequins all over your shirt, or feathers in every orifice of your face. But I think everybody needs to have that happen to them at least once in their lives. So, the Sweet Potato Queens at New Line Theater. Did you see it? What did you think about it? Did you know about the Sweet Potato Queens before seeing this show? Are you a Sweet Potato Queen yourself? Do you think this show should get a cast recording? Whatever question you want to answer, comment below, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more St. Louis musical theater reviews coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, long live the musical!